We've spent our lives taking care of guests. I think it's time we start taking care of ourselves. Welcome to After the Rush, where I'm here to help restaurant professionals build healthier lives, stronger finances, better relationships, and sustainable careers. My name is Jeremy Armstrong, and today we're talking about the biggest lie we tell restaurant workers. The biggest lie isn't that hard work pays off. The biggest lie isn't that success takes sacrifice. The biggest lie isn't even that the customer is always right, which I know we all hate that one. The biggest lie is this: burnout is just part of the job. And for more than over 20 years, I believe that. I believe that lie. And maybe you do too. Maybe you convinced yourself that being exhausted is normal. Maybe you convinced yourself that constantly being stressed just comes with the territory. Maybe you convinced yourself that missing holidays, family events, workouts, sleep, personal goals is simply the price of working in the restaurants. But what if it's not true? I started working in the restaurants when I was 17, and like most of us, I wanted to prove myself. I wanted to be dependable. I wanted to be the hardest worker in the room. I wanted to just prove myself day in, day out. I wanted people to know that they could count on me. So I said yes to fucking everything. I said yes to shifts, to extra shifts, to doubles, to coming into my days off, to covering coworkers, staying late, doing extra work that necessarily didn't wasn't my job description, working through exhaustion and pain. And the crazy thing is, everyone around me was pretty much doing the same thing. We celebrated that shit. We celebrated we celebrated and praised people for never taking time off. We admire the people who work sick. Like I know people who had year plus work of or worth of sick pay and PTO. We respected the people who sacrificed everything for the job. Somewhere along the way, burnout just became a badge of honor. Think about some of the things we normalize in the industry: skipping meals, living on energy drinks, coffee, working sick, missing birthdays, missing holidays, missing weekends, living paycheck to paycheck, running on 4 or 5 hours of sleep. Actually, less than that. Running on 2 or 3 hours of sleep. Running on damn near no sleep. I know a lot of us have gone, out after a long shift and had to go back in the morning to prep and just have 1 or 2 hours of sleep. And somehow we've convinced ourselves that if we're exhausted all the time, it means we're dedicated. But being burned out doesn't mean you're committed. It means you're running on empty. And here's the problem: burnout doesn't just show up all at once. Nobody wakes up one morning and says, "Oh, I'm burnt out." It just happens slowly. It happens quietly. It creeps up on your ass. Like you start becoming more irritable. You have less patience. Little things start bothering you. You stop laughing as much. Like you just go to work pissed off sometimes, and you just stop looking forward to things. You stop calling your friends back. You stop making plans. You start surviving instead of living. And because it happens gradually, most of us don't even realize it's happening. We just think we're tired, and burnt out is more than being tired. Tired people recover. Burned out people don't. You could sleep for 8 hours and still feel exhausted. You can take a day off and still feel drained. You could go on vacation and spend the whole time thinking about work, which is that really a vacation? Like we gotta reverse that. We gotta do better when it comes to those type of things, because burnout isn't just physical. It's emotional. It's mental. It's spiritual. And eventually it starts affecting every part of your life. Your relationship suffers. You become short with the people you love. You stop being present. You stop listening. You stop showing up emotionally, not because you don't care, but because you just don't have nothing left to give. Your health suffers. The stress starts to show up in your body, whether it's weight gain, it could be weight loss, it could be things like high blood pressure or even poor sleep, anxiety. Like I know most of us in this industry has some type of anxiety or ADHD, ADD, whatever you want to call it. But that's why a lot of us thrive in this industry, because we have those things and we get those quick those quick highs and rushes. So that it kind of feeds into us, our headaches and digestive issues. Your body starts sounding alarms that you've been ignoring for years. Your finances suffer because you've burned out. You burned out. When you're burned out, you often make emotional decisions. It's just facts. You spend money to feel better. You chase temporary relief. You stop planning for the future because you're focused on surviving today. Your passion suffers. And this might be the saddest part. The thing you once loved starts feeling like a burden. The kitchen you once couldn't wait to get into becomes the place you're trying to escape. The career you were once part of becomes something you resent. I've seen it happen to talented cooks, to chefs, to managers, bartenders, servers. And if I'm being honest, I felt it myself. I'm in the middle of feeling certain ways and feeling this exact pain. There were times where I was physically present but mentally checked out. Times when I wasn't there, I wasn't the father I wanted to be. I wasn't a husband I needed to be, which is directly affecting my life. Today, times when I wasn't the friend I needed to be. Times where I wasn't even the version of myself I wanted to be. And that's when I realized something. Burnout doesn't just steal your energy, it literally steals your life. It steals moments, it steals relationships, it steals opportunities, it steals joy. And the scary part is that in the restaurant industry, we often reward the behaviors that create burnouts. The person who never says no, the person who always covers shifts, the person who works through sickness, the person who sacrifices everything. We call them dedicated, we call them dependable, we call them hardworking. But sometimes they're simply running themselves into the ground and nobody notices it until the damage is already done. And at some point, I personally had to ask myself that difficult question. I said this in my last video. What good is a successful career if I'm neglecting myself? What good is a title if my health is declining? What good is a professional success if my personal life is falling apart? Nobody asks those questions when you're grinding. They don't. They ask you those questions after the rush, after it's all said and done. And that's exactly why I created this channel. Not because, again, like I said in my last video, I don't have all the answers. I'm not perfect. I'm in the middle of life right now as we speak. But because I'm doing this because I know that there are thousands of people in this industry that feel exactly the same way. People who are tired, people who are burnt out, people who are overwhelmed, people who want more from life than simply surviving one shift after another. And again, on this channel, we're going to be talking about mental health, physical health, financial health, leadership, a lot about relationships, because that's a personal thing for me, personal hurdle that I want to help other people to not make some of the mistakes that I've made in my relationships. Career growth, personal development, how to build a life that you're proud of outside of work without losing your passion for hospitality. Because what I've learned in the past 20 years in this restaurant industry is we don't need more exhausted workers. It needs healthier workers. It needs stronger leaders. It needs healthier families. It needs people who can thrive both inside and outside the restaurant. The goal isn't to survive the rush. The goal is to have a life after it. And if you're watching this right now and you feel exhausted all the time, if you're becoming someone you don't recognize, if you're losing passion for things you once loved, if you're constantly overwhelmed, don't ignore that shit, man. Please don't ignore it. Like, listen to yourself. Your body, your brain, your spirit tells you burnout isn't something you push through forever. It's something you address before it costs you something you can't get back. Believe me, please, because burnout isn't a weakness. It's a warning sign. It's your mind. It's your body. And it's your spirit saying something has to change. Not next year, not someday, but like right now, like today, you could take the steps to better yourself, to reverse the burnout, stop the burnout before it happens. So before I let you go, I want to challenge you with this today. After your shift, instead of scrolling on your phone, instead of going through your messages and going on Instagram, whatever you're on, YouTube, take 10 minutes for yourself. Sit down, take a breath, and ask yourself one simple question. How am I really doing? How am I really doing? Not as a chef, not as a cook, not as a server, not as a bartender, not as a manager, not as a person everyone depends on, but just as a human being. How are you really doing? Because the truth is, most of us spend so much time taking care of everyone else, we stop checking in with ourselves. And if you're feeling burnt out, exhausted, overwhelmed, stuck, you're not alone. If any part of this resonates with you, then you are definitely in the right spot. So subscribe and join the After the Rush community. Share this with your fellow restaurant workers who need to hear it maybe. Just keep it in with yourself if you need it. And remember, you spend your life taking care of guests. It's time to start taking care of yourselves. Take care of your body. Take care of your mind. Take care of the people you love. Take care of the people that love you, because the rush always ends and your growth is just the beginning. I'll see you guys after the rush.